Magdalene's blog 49. The three travellers came across villagers on the road who appeared to be in the process of chasing someone or something out of their area, their lives. Johannes recognized the signs of frightened people banding together, and he and his companions were quite concerned for themselves. The last thing they wanted was to get caught up in the villagers' business. One man, a village elder probably, came forward to talk to them. He warned them that there was a woman possessed by demons nearby. She possessed the strength of several men, was extremely cunning, and apparently had a wicked beauty that made her especially dangerous. One of Johannes's companions told the elder that they would not interfere with them driving the demon woman away from their village. All they wanted was to travel on to the south. The elder had his doubts and told them that they risked much, but seeing that there were three of them, he looked as though he might be persuaded to allow them past. Reluctantly, Johannes's friend produced a few coins from a leather pouch under his cloak, letting the elder see the short sword he carried for protection. The man took the money with a rather surly expression and let the men and the 4 donkeys with them go by. They carried on along the way, followed for a while by several of the villagers. These carried sticks, and who wanted to use the travellers to push the way forward, or so it seemed. Others spread out to check the land on either side of the road, and the companions pretended nothing unusual was happening. But then suddenly Johannes noticed that the 3 of them were on their own again. The villagers were somewhere behind, out of sight, as though they had met some unseen boundary. He couldn't help but remember Mary, and the part he had unwittingly played in her abomination. He wondered where she had got to, what had happened to her. His conscience could never let these thoughts entirely leave him. They trekked on warily. "Keep a lookout, Mark," he was saying. "We don't want to have rocks raining down on us from an angry demoness." "What do you think I'm doing?" said Mark. "I'm not sure why Plotinus even persuaded them to let us pass." "Shut up, for goodness' sake," answered the one called Plotinus. "I at least want to get to a decent campsite tonight, not get stuck in this god-forsaken place." Mark was just raising his voice in a reply when Johannes thought he heard a moaning sound from the right of the track just beside the corner they were going around. "Shush! I think I heard something." They were almost past the rock when Johannes saw the form of a woman, prone upon the ground, covered in a tattered green cloak. His heart almost stopped. Carefully he turned her over. I knew the face that looked into mine, though I couldn't remember why. But the calmness within me allowed me to be glad. Tears came to my eyes as I closed them again, letting go, to dying. "I know this woman," said Johannes. "We have to help her." "Are you mad?" answered Plotinus. "You know she is possessed. How could you know her?" "I knew her in Antioch, where this thing happened to her. It is part of why I'm leaving that place. I must help her." "You're on your own then," said Mark. "There is no way I'm having her travel with me." "Help me get her away from these villagers, and I shall leave you alone. Otherwise we shall all be in trouble, that I promise you." They looked at each other, but realized they had to decide quickly. "All right," said Mark angrily. "Get her on your donkey, quick." Johannes didn't need telling twice. Swiftly they laid Mary across the back of the donkey. Mark and Plotinus mounted theirs, and Johannes led his with its new burden as fast as he could along the track. After a mile or so, they felt they were safe enough to stop and reassess their plans. "What are you going to do, Johannes?" asked Plotinus. Johannes was already giving water from his waterskin to the barely waking woman whom he had managed to get off the donkey. Her body was so scrawny, and what was left of her clothes were torn and tatty. Lifting her down, his arm had felt the scrunched-up letter. "There is something in her garments. I think it's the paper from a letter scroll." "Yes, I'm sure it is." Mary had forgotten about the letter, but released the rolled-up, crumpled paper to Johannes from within her garments. She was in a terrible state, and he didn't want to stress her any further than she already was. The letter had been sealed hurriedly with a priestess's seal. Written beside this on the outside was the address: to Rachel, priestess of Astarte at Tyre. Johannes wondered for a long second whether he should break the seal, but decided he couldn't. Resolve set in his heart and mind. "I'm taking her to Tyre," he declared. His companion shrugged, not seeming to care. "More fool you," said Plotinus. "There is a place not far along this road where you can follow the way to Tyre if you must," said Mark. "For my part, I'm continuing on to Caesarea Philippa as we planned." "How far is it to Caesarea, do you think?" Johannes asked. "Well, I don't think we shall get there till about noon tomorrow," answered Mark. Johannes thought about trying to buy the baggage donkey from Mark and Plotinus, but quickly realized that it wasn't going to happen. He hadn't enough money to make it an attractive proposition. He turned to Mary to see how she was. Her eyes were closed, and he could see how horrible her general condition was. Obviously, she would need to be carried on his donkey. He would have to go the rest of the way to Tyre on foot. He wondered if she was well enough even to travel on his donkey. They would have to go as fast as they could manage. Mark and Plotinus were eager to get on their way. They took Johannes's baggage from the fourth donkey and gave him some of the shared food supply, which he was later grateful for. Then they repacked their loads and were gone, almost before Johannes knew it was happening. He was really stuck now.